There are so many games I haven't played, so I decided I would take some time to experience some older games that I've heard about and just wanted to try them and document my experience with them so maybe other people could enjoy them if I enjoyed them. I also wanted to make some videos to kind of push people to play older games. Um, I think something that happens to me a lot is I get pretty burnt out and I'm trying to find something new to play, but there's actually such a large variety of games to play that came out, not within the last 10 years that I think a lot of people close their minds off to because, they think the graphics are too dated or the controls, uh, which sometimes are valid criticisms, but uh, there's plenty of games that probably should be given a chance regardless of that and are definitely worth playing. I've played a decent amount of N64 games since it was a console I grew up with playing. Um, so I'm gonna try my best and view the games that I'm playing kind of through the lens of how I would have seen it during that time. I'll obviously I'll bring in some more modern critiques to them as well, but I don't think it's really fair to view these games based on modern standards when obviously they didn't have the same technology that exists today or even the same development time. A lot of games were made, I feel like, a lot quicker. Um, and that doesn't mean that the quality was worse. I think it was honestly pretty impressive how fast games were created uh, with still a pretty high level of quality. The game I decided to play was Perfect Dark, which is not a game that I've really heard too much about. I've been told that it's good, and so I thought I'd give it a try. One of my biggest critiques or maybe issues with a lot of Nintendo 64 games is that they don't really show you a lot of the controls. Um, they'll kind of tell you how to do some things, but it's very general, and I feel like they do leave a lot of it up to you to kind of figure out in some instances. I mean, of course, it depends on the game, and some games have somewhat or more simple control schemes than other games. But uh, I remember a lot of times as a kid, I would be getting very confused by what I was supposed to do in a game or how I could do something. Just as an example, I remember the first time whenever I played Ocarina of Time, I I had gotten the sword, um, and I'd gotten the shield, and I was trying to like go and to the Great Deku Tree, and I couldn't get past Mido or Mito blocking your path because he kept saying that I didn't have the sword and shield, and I was like, I yes, I do have the sword and shield. Like, just let me go through. I didn't realize you had to actually equip the sword and shield. So could have also just been due to me not paying attention or reading things. Very possible. But it took me a long time to figure that out. And then once I finally figured it out, I think it's kind of a silly mechanic. Also, I get that there are different things you have to change into later, but it's just kind of funny to me. Like, as Child Link, you only have the option of the Kokiri sword and the Deku shield, at least at the beginning, and then you get the Highland shield. But at least for the sword, you only have one option, and you still have to select it, but you can never unselect it. I don't know. I just think it's a little bit silly. Anyway, I'm kind of droning on about that. One of the things I did appreciate about Perfect Dark was the fact that it has all of these tutorials that kind of show you how to move, how to do combat, and stuff kind of in this whole area at the beginning of the game, which it doesn't necessarily tell you that all this stuff is here. I just happened to choose to walk around the Carrington Institute before doing any of the solo missions. If I just jumped right into the solo missions, there are no tutorials in throughout the entire game, which isn't necessarily bad because this does exist, but I could just imagine someone getting stuck for a while on how they're supposed to do something just because they never went to the institute. They were just like, let me just jump into this game and get into the solo missions. They're like, that seems cool. But they have all of these tutorials basically on how to use every single one of the gadgets. they're they're pretty cool. I won't go over every single one of them just because it would take a long time. Just an example, there's this first one here is essentially use it to hack into different panels and unlock doors. Something that was kind of unfortunate is that they don't use a lot of these, at least playing through the game for the first time, because there's three difficulties. The kind of like easy, medium, hard, but a little bit different. It doesn't necessarily spike the difficulty in a way like you have less resources or the enemies are stronger. It adds additional objectives to the mission. Most missions have about three objectives. They might have more, at least on the easiest difficulty. But as you play on the harder difficulties, then there's more objectives that you have to complete in order to finish the mission. I didn't do all of them just because I did not really feel like going through every single mission in the game multiple times. I did enjoy the game, but I didn't enjoy it so much that I really wanted to do that. So, if you want to do that and you're into that kind of thing, then you can definitely go back and try it. I mean, I would highly recommend you try playing this game. So, getting into the first mission, essentially what you're trying to do is gain entrance into the laboratory in this building. You only have one objective in this mission. It's pretty easy. There's not really any penalties for like not being stealthy or anything like that. There's just finish the objectives to finish the level. There are certain things like uh maybe you'll have someone following you, and if they die or something then the mission ends. It actually well actually something that's kind of cool is the mission doesn't actually end. It tells you that you failed an objective and then you have to manually end the mission or abort the mission, which is kind of cool. I mean, it doesn't really make that much of a difference because it's not like you could salvage that, especially if it's something like someone died or something like that. But it's still pretty cool that you're kind of forced to do it. It got kind of frustrating when I'd get like really far into a mission or I'd be like at the very end of it and then that would happen and then you have to force yourself to end the mission. I think the first couple times actually like ran I was like, is there a way that I can still finish the mission? But no, if you fail an objective, then it's pretty much over at that point. So I did try really hard to be stealthy in this game, but I don't know, it just felt like it didn't really work that well. And I don't know how much work they put into like the stealth mechanics. Obviously they're way more limited than like what we have now. But essentially if you walk in a room and they even like glance at you, then they've seen you and there's not really any point in being stealthy at that point because if they see you then everyone in that room is pretty much alerted. You might as well just take out all the enemies in the room quickly and then move on. It doesn't really alert everyone in the entire building. There are levels that have alarms. And if they set up the off the alarm, then it will alert everyone in the entire building, but it's not something that just happens by default. So essentially after you fight your way through just about every enemy here because I was not able to be stealthy, you make it into the lab at the bottom of this building, and that's the end of the mission. So there's different types of missions. This type of mission is kind of like the first one is you getting in, kind of like infiltrating the building. The second one is you going like a little bit deeper into the building, and then the third one is you escaping the building. So there's a few different ones like that. Some are kind of standalone. They don't like bridge into each other besides just the overarching story element of it. But I do think it's kind of cool that there's each of the missions kind of are broken up this way. I will say the story in this game is pretty interesting. I thought it was going to be very serious. I mean, there's not a lot of games, especially on the Nintendo 64, that take themselves like super seriously, I feel like. And a, generally, a lot of games, I feel like from around this time, don't actually take themselves like super duper seriously, with like some a few exceptions. This one, it feels very like rooted in reality. Like, you're in the future, but there's this organization and you're trying to figure everything out, right? One of the first kind of plot twists is that this doctor that you've been trying to find this entire time is not actually a person, but they're a computer. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, they're throwing in some interesting twists into the story. And then this makes a lot easier companion to travel around the rest of the mission with, because you're kind of stuck with them for the rest of the mission. So after you rescue Dr. Carroll, then essentially you are just trying to escape the building with him. And they throw a bunch of enemies at you. One of the cool things is, as you can see here, it's dark because you need to use the night vision to be able to see at this point, because they turned off the lights, which I thought that was really cool. Just throwing in something like that in the middle of a mission. It really makes me feel like a lot of things in this game were kind of constrained just by the nature of the Nintendo 64. It's pretty underpowered compared to like the PS2, which I know came out just a little bit later, or the Xbox. If this had come out on either of those, I think it would have been like almost a completely different game. And there is actually a kind of updated version of this game on the 360 that you can play. It's on Game Pass, so if you want to play a game with a version of this game with way better controls and slightly updated graphics, then I definitely recommend going that route, because playing with a single analog stick is not the most enjoyable thing. So after taking out all these enemies, you make it back up to kind of the beginning of the level where you had snuck in from, and waiting for you at the top of the stairs are uh is this lady you kind of see at the beginning of the level. She's your adversary, and it kind of stops you and pulls you into this cutscene, and then they shut off the lights and start attacking you, which is honestly not something I've really seen in a Nintendo 64 game. Maybe I need to play more Nintendo 64 games, but out of the ones that I've played, for example, like, I don't know, like, you don't see too many cutscenes, especially like an in-game cutscene that pulls like stops you from playing the game for a second, and then they're like, okay, now you can play since this has happened. A lot of times it's like, a full-on cutscene, or maybe it's even like it feels like a separate like movie in the game. But I thought that was really cool. That was something that I was not expecting from this game. So the mission ends and you essentially escape with Dr. Carroll and everything. And then you go on to this next mission, which Carrington is the person that runs the like agency that you work for. He's been captured by these people, and it's kind of cool. You get this like sniper rifle, go around, take out these guys kind of stealthily, but then really just I ended up pretty much just blasting my way through every single one of them. Once you get to the end of the level, you rescue him, and then he basically says how he spilled some information to the enemy, and They've got Dr. Carroll, who you basically don't see again until the end of the game, and now you basically got to break into this place to get this like backup disc and also get some information on who these conspirators are and basically like some evidence about what they're doing so you can have that to use against them. Uh, this was kind of the point where I almost gave up on stealth entirely. There are some later missions where I was able to be stealthy, but it just felt almost impossible. Like in this level, there's literally this turret flying around that as soon as you walk near it, like not even in front of it, it will instantly start shooting at you. Feels like there's not really a way to be stealthy. And like that it's like you're in a disguise, but then there you'll instantly run into a guy that'll just start shooting at you. Anyway, try not to be too harsh on it. You break into this place, and here you're gonna try and get some information to kind of like extort these guys. What just have it, not even extort them, just have it to use against them so you can show it to the government, whoever. So you send your camera thing in here that you have, and it's pretty cool. It reminds me of like the recon drones from Battlefront 2. And you record their conversation, so you have that for later. It's kind of cool if you actually make noise. Once you get further into the level, it'll scare them off. You can't record anything. And then you blow into this safe. You grab this upgrade disc that's in here after defending it for a little bit. Or I guess you don't blow into it, you hack into it. And then you leave. And that's pretty much it for the mission. Okay, so at this next point in the game, I thought this game, it feels pretty serious, like corporate espionage. It's this like cyberpunk world. You go into Area 51 next. I'm like, okay, I'm just thinking, you know, this isn't really like, there's actually going to be aliens. It's just like they're just using that as like generic government facility that you need to go to. Well, I was incorrect about that because there is actually an alien, probably the most generic looking alien you have ever seen in your entire life. And there he is. And you're pretty much trying to rescue him. They're kind of talking about how he's like your ally. You need to save him. I wasn't really expecting that. I was like, aliens in this world isn't like that crazy to me, but I wasn't I don't know, I wasn't expecting it like in this way. So, yeah, that was the story takes an interesting turn at this point, I would say. But it's still it's still not bad. So, after kind of fighting your way through all these guys breaking into Area 51, then you make it to the informant that's on the inside, and he's trying to help you rescue the alien from Area 51. Um, it's funny because at this part he's telling you like to be careful. I'm thinking maybe he's like who you shoot because you might kill him. I'm thinking there's an opportunity for you to like accidentally shoot him, but no, you walk into this area and it's a cutscene where there's this guy you think's the informant, but then the actual informant shoots him, and so I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity. I mean, I don't know how you would have told the difference between him and the other ones, but I think it would have been kind of cool if it was like, oh, if you just go in all willy nilly killing every single enemy, you might accidentally kill this guy that needs to help you. So you break into this area, you get like a disguise from a scientist of a scientist, to break into this area. Um, and then you grab a key card, and then you go into this separate area, which they force you to take out essentially every enemy in this room and grab the key card, and then you go in and you save the alien. He's still stuck on this cart thing that you gotta haul around for just the beginning of the next mission. Thankfully, not for like the whole mission. So after you save this guy, drop him off in this area, then you go through the rest of the mission without him. You meet back up with this guy that show that helps you, that the guy that helped you earlier, and just I don't even know what to say. Like I've I guess just watch like this next clip of the freaking alien.
I'm alive! I thought I'd be chopped up like the others by now. You're from the Institute, aren't you? I recognize you from before. You helped me. Thank you.
You speak our language?
Watch her, she's sharp.
The alien's just like this goofy little guy that's all about just like straight into it. He's totally cool with helping you and speaks English, of course, naturally. Um, Basically, you're all going to escape on his also very generic UFO. Considering how creative just about everything is in this game, I would think that they could have been a little bit more creative with the alien design. Like, maybe I don't think I'm being too harsh there. Like, maybe they could have been a little bit more original with how he looks. And I thought, maybe that's it. Like, that's we're not probably not gonna see the alien again. Maybe these missions aren't as like connected as I thought they were. No, he does come back. So he comes back pretty soon in not this mission, but in the next mission. But this mission was actually probably one of my favorite ones in the game. So first they give you this crossbow, which I thought was pretty sick. Essentially, you can knock people out using the like tranquilizer darts that it has, and I actually felt like I could be kind of stealthy in this level. So I know I thought this was probably one of the better missions. So you essentially disguise yourself as the stewardess that you take out at the beginning, break into this facility, you ride down the Resident Evil 2 elevator, and then you're trying to sneak onto Air Force One. So that's the whole premise of the mission. I mean, sneak is loose. I say loosely as I'm essentially blasting everyone with an assault rifle throughout this entire mission. But yeah, you're just trying to get onto Air Force One. So after you get onto the plane, you find the president to show him the evidence that you got in that earlier mission that was basically like, hey, like these guys are bad news because they're trying to make a friggin' clone of the president. It makes a little bit more sense later, I guess. Um, Especially because it seemed the way they talk about it is they're like, oh, they're trying to get the president's DNA so they can make a clone of him, which is kind of weird to me considering there's a clone of the president in the next level. But it all makes sense. It all makes sense. Don't worry. So you have this other alien ship, another alien ship. You know, me playing this for the first time, I thought that was the same alien. Then because there's no dialogue, I was like, maybe he just got a different ship or something like that. He's flying up here to help me like get the president off the ship or something. I don't know why I was thinking that. Okay, don't judge me. That's just what I thought when I saw this. So Another alien ship attaches to Air Force One. Bring the president down to his escape pod. I thought the escape pod was the alien ship. It's not the alien ship. You have to go down. There's an actual escape pod. So after you bring the president to his escape pod, you go back up, you throw this mine in here, and you blow up. You try and blow up the thing that the alien ship is using to attach to you. Then the alien that you saved earlier, because by the way, his name is Elvis, in case you were curious. He rams his ship into that tube that's connected to Air Force One, which results in him like crashing, and also Air Force One crashing, I guess, in Antarctica. I'm not really sure. You know, you're flying over the ocean one second, you're in Antarctica the next. So you're in Antarctica now. Gotta find the president. You gotta kill the president's clone. And you gotta activate the beacon on the escape pod. So that's basically all you gotta do to finish this mission. So after you finish this part of the mission, you know, you finish all your objectives. This cutscene plays. You know, the president doesn't really question the alien. He's pretty cool about it. He's a pretty chill guy. So this is kind of like I would say one of the bigger reveals in the plot. Spoilers, you know, if you care about that. So there's these two guys. You saw them when you were filming whatever, getting evidence against them. Turns out that this guy is he's a freaking alien. So he's a different alien. He's got an original design, and he's a bad guy alien. So that, you know, the whole thing is this corporation is essentially owned and run and operated by aliens, and yeah. So okay, so now in the last mission, Elvis was just like, he was kind of helping us out. But in this mission, he's just here. He's like a secret agent now, too, I guess, you know? He's following you around. He's kind of like the comic relief, but he doesn't really do anything a lot of the time. He just says that he'll meet up with you later. And then you do the entire mission by yourself, breaking into this submarine, shutting down the power. One of the few times you get to use the gadgets. I feel like I'm being like sounding like super negative. I actually thought the game was pretty cool. Um, so like I thought the X-ray vision was cool. I thought the game was honestly just like held back by the hardware that it's on, and I think that it's really unfortunate. Something that I saw while I was playing this game was I was wondering. I was like, I thought I had heard that something about this game getting like a reboot or a remake or something, and sure enough, that was a thing, and it just got canceled. So kind of sucks. What they showed of it looked pretty cool, and yeah, it's just unfortunate. So thank you for that, Xbox. If you want to remake this game or reboot this game anyway, feel free to do so. So basically, the reason you're breaking onto that submarine is because there's a smaller submarine on that submarine or boat, whatever you want to call it, and you need to use it to get to this underground facility to essentially blow up this alien ship that's like the evil alien ship. This mission was probably one of the most boring ones in the game, I'm not gonna lie. There wasn't anything super crazy about it. There wasn't really any gadgets that you use. You basically just go into this place, you activate these teleporters, and then you like leave. Or you try to leave anyway. But then you run into your friend that we saw at the very beginning of the game. We're getting close to the end, guys. You saw at the very beginning of the game, you get to see Dr. Carroll again. He shows up here. So, you know, I guess the aliens are using him for this mission. You come in here, There he is. He's got evil eyes now because he's been controlled by the bad guys. Uh, you use the backup disc I think that you got at the beginning of the game to change him back. But it doesn't even matter. I mean, I guess it does. He helps you. He's like, I have to stay back here and blow up the whole freaking place. So he blows up the whole freaking place. Um, and then you basically just run out of the place, and that's the end of the mission. So after that, seems like it's kind of the end of the game. You know, they're celebrating, they're going to meet the president, all that stuff. You're like, okay, like, you know, kind of generic ending. The president's gonna thank them, whatever, for saving the day. But then this, the institute that, you know, the Carrington Institute gets attacked by aliens. Except there's only one alien. That's the only alien that's here. And then you shoot him, and then he's dead. I mean, then, you know, the other guys, I guess they could be aliens. They're just disguised as humans, probably more than likely. You know, since the one guy could do that. You basically save all the hostages here and accidentally kill one of them because they like to run in the way. And then you get this pretty cool gun that it's like this crazy SMG that lets you turn invisible. Um, Pretty cool, honestly. There is actually a cloak gadget. I didn't see it the entire game. There were a lot of gadgets I did not see in essentially the entire game. Um, which maybe you see them if you play on the higher difficulties. Maybe there's, I don't know, but I feel like you should see them on the lowest difficulty because then you basically, you know, like maybe less gadgets on harder difficulties would make more sense to me. Um, anyway, you get captured by the aliens. So now you're captured by the aliens. They You're locked in this place with this other lady that she's a bad guy and she's going to sacrifice herself for you so you can escape. So she runs out there and basically just dies, and then you get to run out there and actually escape thanks to her. So the story, I don't know if you've noticed at this point, but the story has taken a bit of a turn. So you're captured by aliens, you know, you're on an alien ship, you got other aliens helping you. There's actually multiple Elvises. Uh, the best part, uh, it's kind of hard to see. I'll maybe have to show it again. Um, so Elvis he runs up to you and he's wearing this like American flag like vest, and I don't know, it's just pretty funny. So he's wearing this like friggin' American flag vest. He's patriotic now. I guess he's all like pro America at this point. You basically are trying to take over this ship so you can you know, you figure out where they're going. And you can stop the aliens like once and for all. So you basically get up to the bridge, take over the ship, um, and that's essentially the end of it. So you get to the final mission, and you're basically going to take out the alien leader. It's pretty straightforward mission. There's not anything crazy. You don't really get to use any gadgets on it. The aliens are called the Sketer. This is like their home world, and you're basically just gonna go in here and mess a bunch of stuff up and then kill their leader. Now, the one gripe that I had with this level, I don't know, it just feels like bad design to me. There's this bridge that you need to extend right here. You know, you can't see it now, but you go into this room and nothing weird about this room unique about this room. I didn't really look at the floor too hard. There's that part, the thing that I'm essentially standing on at this part that I didn't realize what it was. It looks like it's just a broken portion of the flooring because it matches all this other stuff around here. I thought that triangle thing was like a broken pillar. But then I bumped into it eventually after looking around for a very long time and I saw that it moved. And I realized that you actually have to move this weird triangle thing on to that, like, what looks like a broken portion of the floor because it's actually a switch. Um, and maybe to other people who haven't seen 4K graphics, it'll be a little bit more obvious. To me, not so much. I was like very confused. Now, so I don't know. Not a big fan of that part. You go through here, take out this army in this area. These guys kind of just keep coming at you like one at a time until you've taken every single one of them out. And after you've beaten them all, then you actually get to move on and fight the final boss. And he's it's it's not super obvious what you're supposed to do. Obviously the first thing you're gonna do is just lay into him with whatever guns you have. Turns out you have to shoot at him until he goes into the center and tries to recharge his shield using that thing behind him. And then you shoot at the thing behind him to break it. And once you've completely broken it, then it falls on him. And that's the end of the game. Pretty much, there's some extra missions that you can do that are not technically like part of the story. Like after you do this, the credits roll. And yeah, so now that the story is basically out of the way, I'll talk about because I feel like I was being kind of negative during a lot of it. I don't think the story is bad. I just think it's a little bit silly. Um, Elvis wearing I mean the fact that his name is Elvis and he's an alien. He looks so generic. I just feel like everything about the game is so like stylized and intentional, but then you just have like this who is like the most generic looking alien that you've ever seen. Um, the gameplay, I thought it was pretty good. There's something they added in. I mean, considering you're using one analog stick, they gave it's kind of like an aimbot, so the aiming reticle would just jump to uh the enemy like most centered in your vision essentially, which was very welcomed because otherwise you have to like hold down the R button like in GoldenEye and aim at the enemy and then shoot them. I think it was something I think is just unfortunate is just how little they use the gadgets. Like if you got this game and you just immediately play the solo missions, like first of all, you might be kind of confused and I don't think you'd get a very good experience because you wouldn't know how a lot of the mechanics work. But you just might not even know that some of these things exist. And I'm sure that you would go on, you try like the harder difficulties. I don't know what they've added, what's in those. Maybe there's more opportunities to use the gadgets, more of the gadgets appear, or maybe you can find them throughout the levels and I just missed them. There's a lot of footage that I cut out though of me running around in circles for a really long time because I was confused. So I don't think that I really missed anything. I'm pretty good about finding things, making sure I don't skimp over anything like that. Uh, Overall, I would probably give the game like an 7 out of 10 for me. I I enjoyed it, and it has co-op as well, so you can play it with someone. If you have a Nintendo 64. Um, but I don't know. I didn't really care for the story personally. Sorry for any die hard Perfect Dark fans out there. I'm sorry that the game didn't get a remake. I honestly think that's really unfortunate. I or a sequel, whatever it was supposed to be. I think it was maybe supposed to be a sequel. Um, I mainly wanted to make this video to kind of force myself to try games that I've never played before, give them more of a chance, and then also maybe someone else will see this out there. They'll be inspired to try some older games. I think more people need to play older video games because so many games now they're so similar to each other. You know, a lot of companies, they're not really taking any risks with what they're doing, and I don't know. There's tons and tons of games out there that you can play. Um, and you some people might think, well, I don't have a PlayStation, I don't have a Nintendo 64. Well, emulation does exist, and you essentially have like an infinite library of video games with emulation. So, highly recommend you look up some resources on YouTube, um, or just anywhere on the internet to find out how to set up an emulator and use an emulator. Or if you have your own, or if you want to go out and buy older games, feel free to do that also. Um, if you stayed this long and watched the entire video, I appreciate it. I'm going to be putting out some more similar videos about other older games. If you have any recommendations on something that you think is underrated, then if you want me to try playing that, I'd love to take recommendations because there's so many options to choose from. But uh, thanks for watching.